My criteria for a good miter saw station is it needs to have material support for more accurate cuts, a way to make repeat cuts, and it should have good dust collection. Of course, if I'm to achieve these goals, I need a clear and accurate set of plans. Hey, I'm Mike Farrington. Welcome back to the Boardroom. Experience has taught me that putting stuff and junk in its place is helpful with design. So starting with the planer in its home, my plan is to have it share the miter saw countertop as an infeed. I have a sustainer that represents the corner of the soon-to-be-built lower cabinet. From there, I'll build an 8-foot or so cabinet over to my glorious Omga miter saw. With the saw in place, I now know how deep the lower cabinets need to be. I have the dust collector in place but on the ground unmounted. Continuing on, another lower cabinet, say 3.5 feet wide or so, to the right of the saw, and finally over to the shaper, which will also share the countertop as outfeed support. Near me, there are a couple of building supply shops that sell discount plywood. Typically, these are manufacturing runs that had an issue. In this case, I found some 1-inch thick ply that has the most beautiful poplar core I have seen. The face veneer has some small defects, which is not important when building shop cabinets. I procured these for $26.99 a sheet plus sales tax. I think a steal of a deal. I bought 20 sheets. Anything I don't use in the shop will be built into basement storage. It should be noted, though, that 1-inch thick ply sounds cool, but due to the fact that cabinet hardware is built around 3/4 inch, it's difficult to make doors out of this material, so I'm still in the market for some 3/4 inch. With the cabinet parts cut, it's time to drill some holes. Mounting drawer slides accurately can be difficult. Using a washer head screw seems like a good idea, but slop will cause the drawer to sag over time. If you go this route, use a cone or a bugle head screw to lock it in place. My preferred method is to use 5mm shelf pinholes in these 5mm system screws. This creates a solid connection that won't slip over time, and if drilled accurately, makes installing drawer slides a breeze. The bottom 2 feet of the shop has a block wall foundation, which I wanted to work around. So the lower section of the cabinet will use a 20-inch slide, and above that it'll use a 24-inch slide. But this means that I needed to drill 2 rows of holes for the back hole in the drawer slides. I've been using this MEG shelf pin jig for many years now. Over time, I've developed my own method for using it. For the first row of holes, I use the built-in 37mm screw stops. For rows of holes located in from the edge, I remove the screw-in pins and use plywood spacers. If this seems like a lot of work, it's not too bad, maybe an hour and change for all the holes, but once I'm done, I can locate a drawer slide up or down the side of a cabinet in 32mm increments, and the drawer slides will be parallel to the bottom of the cabinet. Also, when I move on to building out the storage, I'll have plenty of flexibility and adjustability. I cut out some notches to accommodate the block wall footing. I hugely overcut these because I don't want to fight this when installing the cabinets. I'm working towards a pencil line for this cut. I swizzle on some glue, add a few nails to hold things in place while I install my favorite mechanical fastener, the screw. I like to use leg levelers. Yes, they make installing cabinets easier, but also I like to be able to vacuum under the cabinets every so often, say like once every 10 years. Quick progress shot. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. Quick pro tip. Use the oblong shape of the leg leveler base to carry the mating side of the adjacent cabinet. It's a good idea to find the high spot on the floor, level that cabinet first, then bring the other cabinets up to that height. Normally, I recommend adding a ledger to the wall to support the back of the cabinets. I didn't do that because of the block wall, and so I find myself laying face down. Once level, flush, and plumb, I screw the cabinets together. I add some shims to accommodate for a wobbly wall. Then I screw the whole assembly to the wall. Next up, I rough in some countertops. This is one area where the 1-inch thick plywood really shines. I need to make a super special notch for this locking knob. It holds the saw in place when not using one of the detents. I use a combination of track saw and pull saw to cut this out. I also clip the corners because I'm worried about bumping my old man hips. Finally, I add a small chamfer. Do you add a chamfer or do you remove a chamfer? Either way, I do this to protect me from the corner and the corner from me. About 5 seconds after screwing this counter down, I realized that I needed to cut a dado for the toilet track. After cutting the dado and screwing down the toilet track, I was feeling pretty good about this. Things were really coming together nicely. It was feeling like a great miter saw station. I would normally use a center punch for this, but it's still packed up in a moving box somewhere. All right, let's fast forward a little. I've hung the dust collector up on the wall. It was heavy and I needed help. My brother-in-law came over. He didn't want to be in a Mike Farrington video as it would besmirch his reputation, so I didn't film that. After building this center cabinet, I wanted to get the saw leveled and bolted down so I could use it. So let's take a second to talk about shims. This is your standard wood shim. It's made out of some sort of softwood, probably pine. It's great for installing cabinets, but terrible for leveling a saw. The soft wood will compress over time with the continuous smashing of the saw being used. Next up is this black composite shim. These are okay. They're a bit rubbery feeling though, and they're not super dense, and I don't like the step texture. Finally, we have these. This is my favorite shim. They are dense, they won't compress, and they break off easy. It's perfect to shim a saw up and level. I prefer perfect, however, that rarely occurs in life. So if my saw and countertop are not perfectly flush with each other, I want the saw just a tick higher. I used a bolt that goes all the way through and some washers, as well as a nylock nut. I don't want this puppy coming loose, and of course, a good old-fashioned shake test confirms it's tight like a tiger. Now that my saw is bolted down, it seems like the perfect time to finish off the dust collection. I need to make this box here to which I will mount dust collection bags and mount the box to the output of the blower. Of course, everything is at weird angles, so I thought the best way would be to just mark and then cut right up to my line.
Let's line it up and let it rip.
I wasn't sure how much space to leave between the two dust collection bags, so I tried to set everything in place and just go by how it looked. Also, I went with 2 bags because this size is used on those small 650 CFM collectors, and I think my blower should be good for like 1100, 1200-ish maybe. I'm guessing some viewers will have a problem with dust collection bags in general. My experience with them has been that they work great if they're of decent quality. The downside is they do need to be emptied frequently. But keep in mind that this is a dedicated collection system for a chop saw, so I'm not creating a ton of dust. I'm guessing I'll need to dump these once every few months, except for those crazy high usage projects. I bias these holes towards the front of the box to make sure that there is airflow clearance behind the bags. I add a chamfer to the inside edge, seemed needed. With the box rough built, I pop it in place for a quick look-see. Now let's check in with Mike down on the field.
But here's where we're at, and this is just a temporary support. I'll make a cleat here and a cabinet side just to go on here.
Cut a hole in the top of the center cabinet. This is where the dust collection will go into the blower. I put it back in place and I check plumb for what seems like an eternity. With that, I would like to introduce you to my latest video segment. It's called 6 Seconds of Level and or Plumb with Mike Farrington. Wow, that was nice. Well, with that out of the way, I popped this adapter on, which is designed for 6-inch PVC. I built and notched another upper cabinet and put it in place. Things are coming together nicely. I said earlier that I was going to finish off the dust collection. Well, I lied. At this point in the project, I was struggling to find 6-inch PVC pipe. And I'm also waiting on my 3D printer to finish printing the dust collection bag mounts. So, to keep things going, I switched back into cabinet making mode. I finally found a store with 6-inch PVC sewer and drain pipe in stock, though I had to drive an hour to go get it. So it's back into dust collection mode. This is embarrassing, so I thought it would be fun to show. I don't know exactly what I was thinking, but for some reason this seemed easier than just taking the cabinet apart and cutting the hole with the jigsaw like a normal person would. My daughter liked the color of this stuff, so obviously whoever's in charge of marketing over at the pipe manufacturing company has a 7-year-old daughter. I think this is schedule 35, not your normal schedule 40, so keep that in mind if you do this in your shop. Make sure that the fittings and the pipe have the same rating. With the pipe cut and in place, I did some testing and was happy enough to seal everything up once and for all. I used my favorite caulking, Big Stretch. To attach the box to the blower, I used a copious amount of sealant as well as the rubber seal that came with it originally. I couldn't get a good shot, but the box bolts on to the blower from the inside. I think this box is better called a plenum, but that word sounds gross. I designed these in Fusion and then 3D printed them. It's super neat to be able to do this kind of thing. Picked up these clamps. They're called ratchet zip ties, which I didn't even know existed until now. I call these guys bag snouts, which probably sounds more gross than the word plenum, but it makes me laugh. Man alive! Yes, that is correct. Your eyes do not deceive you. I use pocket screws to mount cabinets. So if you're ever in the fortunate position to be in my shop, keep your eyes on these puppies as they could fly off the wall at any moment. Time for a song recommendation. Let's go with the song Sleazy, originally by Kesha, who spells her name with a $sign, I guess, but covered by Ben Folds. That's right, Ben Folds uses his powers for good, pulls this song out of the fully engulfed dumpster. This is the song singing equivalent of Jordan hitting that shot at the buzzer. Ben Folds, he's great. A couple more from him that I like: The Luckiest, Brick, and Not the Same. Those are good ones. So there it is. I do an 18-minute woodworking video so I can talk music for 35 seconds. I use this switch as an auto on-off for the dust collector. It has a delayed start for the dust collector to prevent power surges that could trip a breaker. It also keeps the dust collector running for a little bit after the saw is off, which is to help clear out any dust in the pipes. The maiden voyage went well. Dust collection's pretty darn good. It'll be made better if I close off some of the opening where the saw sits. I made this cord pincher guy. The cord kept wanting to fall down into the cabinet. I wanted to make sure that there was enough slack so the saw could be set to 45-degree miter without straining or tugging. Vanity got the best of me, so I made a cover for the motor. Quick look at my super special miter saw. It's made in Italy by Omga. These are crazy expensive new, like several $1,000s. I got this one for $75 at a garage sale. What sets these apart is very nice machining and a large knuckle that the saw pivots on. This makes for very accurate cuts. The downside is it only has like a 6-inch or so capacity. As mentioned in my incredibly gripping intro, a stop for repeat cuts is a must for any miter saw station. This one is made by my good buddy Jonathan Katz Moses. However, I paid my own precious money for this and therefore can speak freely about it. I do genuinely like the design. It is rock solid and works as intended. It's a great solution for a fenceless miter saw station. For my application, the toilet bolts are a little too long. I'll need to cut those down some. Sharing the countertop with the shaper is going to work out great. And once I build a cart for the planer, that will work out great as well. So I think I'll leave this project here. In the next installment, I'm going to finish it off. I thought it would be better to keep the organization part its own video, which will, of course, go into vomitous detail about stuffing cabinets full of tools. Overall, I think it turned out good. Everything seems to work well enough. Questions, comments, fears, concerns, or suggestions, post them below. Thank you for watching. Till next time.